Glad that everybody came here. So today we have an information-packed workshop for all of you prepared by our lovely presenters. Give them applause. First, we have Paula Segal, who is a senior staff attorney in the Equitable Neighborhoods practice of TakeRoot Justice. Paula has a long history of advocating for and developing programs that make public land available for public use. Then we have Debra Ack, who is a board member of the East New York Community Land Trust and helps with outreach and education for tenants and homeowners. And last but not least, we have Elise Goldin, who is the Community Land Trust campaign organizer with the New Economy Project. They have a decade of experience organizing with tenants, street vendors, and public school parents. And I'm excited to hear about the information that they have in store for us. I myself am very unfamiliar with Community Land Trust, so thank you guys for coming and presenting this for us. So for the folks in the audience, if you would like to ask a question, please use the chat box. I will take your questions and I'll be saving them so that at the end, if there's time, we'll ask them. Please keep your mics off throughout the duration of the workshop unless we have instructed you or asked you to speak. As always, we will keep this a respectful conversation and space, meaning please no violent language, no bigotry, and no hostility, or you will be removed. If you have any issues, feel free to directly message me, contact me. My name is Kayla, of course. And if you enjoy this training, stay tuned for our upcoming Tuesday training on reading rent histories and rent increases. And without further ado, I'd like to pass it along to our presenters.
Hey, everybody. So I think the three of us are going to kind of tag team this. Thank you, Elise, for sharing the slides. And I think Deborah is going to kick us off. Maybe we all should have checked our microphones a little bit. You can watch us do it live. Deborah, are you here?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me? Excellent. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Hello from the Abolish the New York City Lien Sale Coalition. The Lien Sale Coalition is a group of 10 organizations from around New York City. We have held workshops and roundtables to educate the community about the tax lien sale and to build consensus about how to replace it. We want to make this tax lien sale fair and equitable for all. We know that the city needs their taxes, the money to continue to build the city, to take care of our parks, our schools, but let's make it fair and equitable when it comes to collecting the taxes. Hearing from the people about its negative impacts, we developed a campaign to replace the lien sale altogether. Like I said, we've held press conferences and rallies to push the city council and the mayor to abolish the lien sale. Paula, Elise, want to add anything? If not, we can go to the next slide. Go back. Yeah. Okay. These are the 10 organizations that are a part of the Abolish the Lien Sale Coalition. Next slide. Here, which I am a part of, have been a part of them from their inception, is the East New York CLT. CLT stands for Community Land Trust. Founded in 2020, the East New York CLT is a grassroots, community-controlled land trust dedicated to taking ownership of land so that low and middle income Black and Brown East New York and Brownsville residents can benefit from the land forever. We are an organization of community leaders and activists dedicated to preserving affordability for future generations and providing a vehicle to create generational wealth. The CLT seeks to own land and lease the land to the owners of the buildings and other uses on the land. We believe East New York is not for sale. And we envision a healthy and self-sustaining community where our people come before profit. Planning and development in East New York and Brownsville should be led by us, for us, the longtime Black and Brown residents of East New York and Brownsville. Next slide.
Great. Hi, everybody. Apologies for the slideshow. I'm getting the hang of it. But thanks, Debra. And I'm Elise Goldin. As was said, I'm a campaign organizer working around CLTs at the New Economy Project. And just a little bit of background, the New Economy Project is working towards creating an economy that works for all, based in racial, economic, gender justice, and is also rooted in ecological sustainability. And through that vision, we're working towards many different changes in our economy. So one project that we're working towards, for example, is like a public bank to have more accountability of the city's money. And then another major focus of ours that we'll talk about a lot more is community land trusts, and really growing the scene of community land trusts in New York City. And we do that work through our coalition called NICELY, the New York City Land Initiative, that East New York CLT is a part of, TakeRoot Justice is a part of, and yeah, let's see. Great, next slide.
Awesome, we're doing great. This is the best dress rehearsal we've ever had. My name is Paula Segal, as you heard, and I am senior staff attorney in TakeRoot Justice's Equitable Neighborhoods team. As some of you know, because I think a lot of folks on this call are practicing attorneys, TakeRoot Justice provides legal, participatory research and policy to strengthen the work of grassroots and community-based groups in New York City, themselves working to dismantle racial, economic, and social oppression. We are the legal services organization that tries to be New York City's movement lawyers. And I put in a link in the chat for more details about our equitable neighborhoods practice area. Folks are interested, our community land trust work and our work on the inequities of the lien sale is kind of a Venn diagram of two separate areas of focus. So we're really excited to be sharing this presentation today with our partners and with all of you. If anybody wants to get in touch later, ask about anything else you see on the website, get in touch with me directly. And next slide. And I am just gonna talk us through really quickly what our plan is for our hour together. So you've heard a little bit about us. We're really sad that we don't have time today to really hear who's in the room. We're gonna go next into the conversation about what's a community land trust, its history, its core elements, and where the CLT movement is at in New York City. We'll talk a little bit about the moment that we face right now. And then we'll really focus on the New York City lien sale, how it works now, who it's harming, what we have done to change it already, and what we can do to change it in the long term. And wrapping it back together, we'll talk about community land trusts as part of a long-term solution and give you some practical tips for things that you can do for folks you know this week with the lien sale for 2021 looming next Friday. I'll turn it over to Elise to start us off talking about what's a community land trust.
Great. So I'm going to give just a very broad overview of like what is a CLT, and I'll just throw out there that this is one tool, right? And there are many tools out there, and this is one powerful tool to really take land out of speculation and to take it out of the speculative market. And so at its core, the CLT basically separates the ownership or the use of, separates the land and the way that the land is used. So as you can see in this picture, the CLT owns the land, and works to ensure that that land is used in a way that benefits the community. And then buildings are separately owned, or the uses on top of the land are separately owned and used by organizations, businesses, individuals. And this sort of separation of the land and the buildings on top creates some accountability, right? So the CLT is able to really determine, how is this land going to be used? Who should be using it? And usually determines this or kind of enforces it through a 99-year lease that the CLT determines and is able to make, ensure that that lease is permanently affordable and lays out either income restrictions or other terms. And yeah, so the CLT is really based in the racial justice movement. One of the first CLTs, or I think what was considered really the first CLT in the US, was developed in Albany, Georgia in 1969 by Black farmers who were involved in the civil rights movement and really wanted to create their own community, that they had autonomy and could really use the land and own the land and have real ownership and decision making in how that land would be used. I'll also say, sorry to go back to this slide, just really important tenets of a CLT are democratic decision making, permanent affordability, and I forgot the third one. Well, it'll come to me, but sorry. Yes, democratic decision making and affordability are really important points in a CLT. Other important component of a CLT is sort of the board structure. So the CLT is meant to not only kind of steward the land as it is now, but also into the future, right? To make sure that that land is permanently community benefit. So the board is really important to make sure that it's structured in a way that those who are making decisions about the land have sort of that community interest in mind. And so there's generally a tripartite board system, meaning 3 different groups are included in the board structure. So that generally that would include residents or those who are currently using the land as part of the board. So people who are currently invested in the land, other neighbors and sort of a broader community who care about, the future of their community and the future of the land, as well as technical assistance providers or other organizations that can really provide some stability in the board structure. And I'll just say that the CLT movement is really booming in New York City, as I'm sure you all are seeing every day in your work. Tenants and community members across the city are really facing, huge pressures of displacement. We're seeing so much land speculation, right? And so groups as a response are really organizing and saying, we need to come together and really claim our land, take ownership of our land, and make sure that our land in our neighborhoods are being used in a way that is going to benefit us, because obviously that is not generally the case, right? And so as of starting a few years ago, there was really only one active CLT in New York City, and that was Cooper Square CLT in Manhattan, in Lower Manhattan. And that CLT was really successful in many ways and preserved dozens of units of affordable housing. And then in the past few years, as a result of organizing, as a result of real momentum, especially from Picture the Homeless, a group of current and formerly homeless people who are pushing for solutions to homelessness and displacement in New York, there's like an outburst in organizing around CLTs. And now, as you can see, there are I believe over 18 groups that are either have formed CLTs in New York City or are in the process of forming them. And so including East New York CLT. So really exciting. And I'm gonna pass it to Debra to talk about this current moment.
Okay, thanks, Elise. The moment we face, what are we facing as CLT members right now? We're facing historic transition in city government. As we know, there will be new players in particular seats in government, new council members, new Eric Adams will be our new mayor in New York. So we're really facing the transition in city government, and as CLTs, we're having to face educating them about CLTs, because for some of them, as for some of you here, have never even heard of a CLT, but CLTs have been around for a very, very long time. We're also facing long-standing housing and speculation crisis. New York City, East New York and Brownsville, we are in a housing crisis. As we know, the homeless system has really gotten out of control, and they have no means of supporting the individuals who are homeless and housing them, giving them truly affordable, low-income housing, tenants, renters. That's why I say, the housing speculation. Right now, we're facing this tax lien sale, and we're trying to abolish it because we don't want the speculators and the high-end individuals coming into our neighborhood and building 10, 12-story buildings, and the people of the community can't afford to move into these buildings. We're also facing an ongoing pandemic and a recession. As you know, with this new variant coming out, people are afraid to move around. People are still losing jobs. People are afraid to socialize and even go to work with all these new variants coming out. So that puts a strain on housing, that puts a strain on people being able to make a truly affordable wage. So if you can't make an affordable wage, you can't pay for your housing. So the CLTs are about creating truly affordable, not low income. We do not, the East New York CLT does not use that term low income. We use truly affordable housing and rental units and commercial spaces and green spaces for our community. This is a moment of grave challenges and great opportunities to educate these new government people coming into position, to get them even more so on board with the CLT movement. Next. Tenants and homeowners are struggling, and the city policy is making it worse. Around the city, but especially in communities of color, small homeowners are struggling to pay their municipal bills, and tenants are struggling with bad condition and absentee landlords. We find this a lot with the lien sale, where landlords of big apartment buildings decide they don't want to pay their taxes. They want to get rid of the building. So instead of paying their taxes and doing right by their tenants, what they're doing is they're banking the money in hope of someone purchasing the building. But in the meantime, they're not doing any repairs for the tenants who are currently living there. So the tenants wind up living under terrible conditions. Meanwhile, there are empty lots that sit vacant as speculators flip them for profits without building a thing. Yes, the East New York CLT, we surveyed over 250 vacant lots in East New York alone. We are currently putting out a proposal to acquire 3 of the lots in East New York. But like I said, the lots just get flipped from one owner to the next owner without building anything, just so that they can make money. But the East New York CLT, we want to acquire the land and build on the land what the community has told us they want and need in their community. That's why we go out and we do surveys near the lots that we have chosen to acquire. Instead of designing a system to fix these problems, for the past 25 years, the city has outsourced core functions of government and distanced itself from its duties. Low-income renters and homeowners, seniors, and communities of color have suffered as a result. Tenants and homeowners are at risk. Last week, the city announced that it will be doing a lien sale in 2021, which could affect over 11,000 properties. Yes, the East New York CLT, along with other CBOs, community-based organizations, we're doing outreach to those property owners to get them off of the lien sale. No, what we're trying to do will not eliminate their debt, but it will give them more time to set up payment plans, which we'll learn about later. Next screen. I'll turn it over to Paula.
Hi, everybody. So I'm just going to do a really quick rundown of what this lien sale thing is. And also, I just noticed on the last slide, we recycled some of these. As you can imagine, they announced the lien sale 3 months ago. The sale is scheduled for December 17th, which is next Friday. Groups have been doing outreach to get homeowners and community organizations and other folks who are listed as potentially having a lien sold this year to either fill out a hardship form or to pay their taxes or to get into a payment plan or to let Department of Finance know that they are still an exempt charity organization that should not be charged taxes. It has been a massive outreach effort. So we will continue to do that for the next week and a half. If folks want to help, get in touch with Debra or I, but here's what happens. This is an overview, and Elise, can you just jump to the next slide? So what will happen next Friday is the city's going to bundle all of the outstanding bills. This year, they're not including water. They're just doing property taxes and emergency repairs. And they sent the bills to property owners a couple of months ago. Go ahead, next slide. They've already sent out a 90-day notice saying, if you don't pay this bill, we're going to sell a lien. They've sent out a 60-day notice saying, if you don't pay this bill, we're going to sell a lien. They've sent out a 30-day notice and a 10-day notice. And then next Friday, they're going to put, oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. You're good. Next Friday was the date of the sale, unless it somehow gets canceled. They're going to sell all of those debts to a single trust, which is backed by investors. And the cost of all of them all together is 72% of the face value. So 72 cents on the dollar of all of the unpaid taxes, of all the unpaid bills. So taxes and emergency repairs. Next slide, Elise. The lien trust is going to hire its own bill collectors, add high interest and fees. There's a fee just for having your lien sold. There are fees for having to have debt collectors call you. Most folks at this stage will actually pay off the debt, but at this point, they will be paying 100% of the bill plus all the fees. So actually paying a lot more than they initially owed the city. But they will get to keep their property. But for the folks who at this point couldn't afford to pay what they now owe. Go ahead, Elise. Thank you. The tax lien trust itself can start a foreclosure, or it can just decide, you know what, we don't really want to own that property. We'll just hold on to it and let it accrue interest. Go ahead. foreclosure is an action in court. They're going to go before a judge. They're going to say, we bought this debt, we own it, they haven't paid us, this is a lien against the property. It was recorded in ACRIS, unless this person pays, this property is properly ours. And they will not be wrong. Ooh, go back. Go back for a second. So they will not be wrong. If the case just moves through foreclosure, at that point, a property owner has very few defenses. They do still have some options. They can try to settle with the tax lien trust and pay a lot of money to get out of foreclosure. But without a settlement, property owners will lose their homes, they'll lose their churches, they'll lose their community gardens, they'll lose the property against which the lien has been placed. A lot of folks at this point, when they really see how few options they have, they don't wait for the foreclosure to end, they sell. And then they use the money from the sale to pay off the tax lien trust. Okay, now go ahead. So investors, and the trust makes money for its investors. And it does through service fees, through high and compounding daily interest rates. And then sometimes it does so by actually getting the property at foreclosure. And then once it gets it, it auctions it off. And then that's a big chunk of money. When the trick of this is, after next Friday, all this debt collection that I just described will no longer be done by the city. The tax lien trust operates as a private entity. It is not accountable to anybody that is elected by anybody. It is only accountable to its investors by its organizing documents, by law. And so all the politicians and agencies get to sidestep the responsibility for the outcomes that this method of tax collection and collection of other municipal fees is causing in our neighborhoods. And then, of course, bad landlords, as Debra was describing, aren't deterred by the liens and fines because they know they can sell their building for a big profit. Go ahead. Oh, oops. That's a weird thing the slide does. So that's who benefits from this system. And so you can, as I think you can imagine at this point, can you just click the next button, Elise? Sorry. We can imagine who the system harms. It harms homeowners who want to settle the debts but can't afford the fines and compounding interest and might lose their homes. It harms tenants in buildings whose landlords are using the rent to cover debts rather than maintaining the housing, and then might be displaced. It harms BIPOC communities, particularly those where folks are staying in New York because they own their homes. And one thing that's really pernicious about the lien sale is for folks who have a mortgage, most of the time the servicer pays their property taxes for them. But the moment they pay off that mortgage, they start getting a property tax bill for the first time in 30 years. And maybe that's something that was unexpected. Maybe they just didn't plan for it. Maybe it just didn't kind of in the flow of how folks manage their finances. That isn't something they handle correctly when they first get it. And a lot of the folks who are included in the lien sale are folks who actually own their homes outright because they've paid off their mortgage and are now trying to figure out how to pay the other debts they owe for owning a home, basically their rent to the city for having a spot on a city street. And those are primarily BIPOC communities in this city. And then of course, when properties go through the lien sale process and go through foreclosure, we are losing opportunities as a city to house working class people in affordable housing, because the properties that go through foreclosure and then get auctioned, they will not be affordable. They're being auctioned for market value to investors who are looking to make a buck. There is absolutely nothing at the other end of a foreclosure and then an auction that guarantees affordability or even suggests affordability. We are talking about market value. Next slide. I think I'm turning it back to Debra.
Oh, hi again. Okay, the 2019 tax lien sale. As you can see, the property sold on the lien in 2019 percentage of Black population per census tract. As you can see, these red dots represent homes that were sold or homes that were on the tax lien sale in 2019. As you can see, they are majority of Black and brown communities throughout New York and Long Island. Next slide. Okay, many of the 3,514 properties on the 2019 sale are clustered, like I said, in working class BIPOC communities. Tax lien sales worsen conditions for tenants. In rental apartment buildings, we often see the following, as I have spoke about before. Landlords take on big debts and have intense pressure to pay them back. So they often cut back on basic building maintenance to reduce expenses or harass and evict tenants so that they can raise the rents on those units. Eventually, they fall behind on bills and end up on a tax lien sale. And once they end up on a tax lien sale, they're like, you know what, I can't manage this, or I don't want to manage this, or I don't want to have any part of this. So they wind up selling to people, and the tenants lose out, because once they sell that apartment building, the next owner will definitely raise those units to market price. When the city sells those liens, we lose the ability to hold the landlords accountable. Instead, we could either help good landlords fix the building or take the building away from abusive landlords and preserve them through CLTs. We're working on a bill for, it's called TOPA, which stands for Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, and also there's a bill that we're working on called COPA, which is the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, which where CLTs are very much into legislation and getting legislation changed so that these harmful practices are abolished or removed from government policies. Tax lien sales worsen conditions. Oh, I did that one. Long story short, it was a right-wing think tank's dream, and Rudy Giuliani adopted it for New York City, even though no other city works this way. Giuliani's system still operates here 24 years later. Paula, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Oh, I think you just did my slide. Wait, Elise, click the next one. This is like the 1, 2, 3. Wait, click the button.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Do we need a tax lien sale? And let's see if everybody can unmute themselves. We can do this together. Do we need a tax lien sale?
No.
Okay, there was a couple of more voices than us. That's good. That means our organizing is working. Great. Elise, I think you're up.
Yeah, so obviously, as you can hear, we think that the tax lien sale is really bad, is really unnecessary, harms communities. So what should we do? So our first demand is to completely abolish this tax lien sale. We believe it doesn't benefit the right people and it should be totally abolished. And then the next step is to create an actual equitable property tax collection system that has the goals of keeping the tax delinquency rates low, prevent displacement, curb speculation, help improve conditions for tenants, promote community ownership, preserve affordable housing and public space. And then also we believe that public sector workers and organizers have the should have the resources that they need to secure, just equitable outcomes. So Paula, Wait, no.
Thanks. So our plan is pretty simple, actually. We want Department of Finance to do its job. We want them to do more robust and sustained outreach to small property owners who are in debt and make it easier for them to apply for exemptions. We've seen, just to editorialize a little bit, I have been working around the impact of the lien sale on charity property owners, so churches, community gardens, daycare centers, other not-for-profit owners over the last 7 years. And last year, in March 2020, which I guess is almost 2 years ago now, we legislated the creation of a not-for-profit ombudsperson in the Department of Finance. And that just having one more person in the Department of Finance whose only job is to do robust and sustained outreach to charity organizations is actually making a difference. I have to say, nobody told him what to do. And about 2 weeks ago, I suddenly said, I don't think he's doing anything. And I started sending him emails being like, here's where you look, here's where you find contact information for these folks. Here's some things you can do. And today he told me he's just been doing everything I told him to. He wasn't sure what to do before he got my message. So fine. Maybe we need to give them directions about how to do robust and sustained outreach. But as long as there's folks at the Department of Finance to do it, it will make a difference. Once that's done, we also want the city to work with local community land trusts to present small property owners with the option to forgive their debt and keep their home in exchange for putting their land in a community land trust. If the property owner can't apply for exemptions, can't pay their debt, doesn't want to put their land in a community land trust, of course the city can foreclose. But it'll be the city foreclosing. And once the city forecloses, the city can decide what to do with that property instead of selling it at auction. That's a politically accountable process. And we would want the city to transfer properties to community land trusts who would then sell them affordably to new property owners or transfer them to other community-based organizations.
Okay, I think that's me. What we've won so far, when I say we, I'm talking about the Abolish the Tax Lien Sale Coalition. So far in 2021, we successfully organized to limit the reauthorization of the tax lien sale to just 1 year. Prior to that, they would wait for 5 years to reauthorize it. So that means within that 5-year period, they were just doing tax lien sales every year. But now they have to go before council and other entities for just in 1 single year to reauthorize this tax lien sale. That's why we're pushing to abolish it before the reauthorization time comes up, which I believe is January, February, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Paula will correct me. We've secured public funding for outreach and education to those affected by the lien sale. We know there's a lot, when I say a lot, I mean thousands of properties on a tax lien sale. And we've gotten the government officials to fund outreach through community-based organizations, such as my organization, the East New York CLT, where we're doing outreach, we're doing education, we're helping homeowners fill out that hardship declaration form, which 95% of people, homeowners, are eligible for it. So we're doing and we're making a difference. And people would want to hear from other people from their community, because first of all, there are speculators out there who are reaching out to them because that tax lien sale list is made public. And what those speculators do is they take that and they threaten people or they coerce people to sign over their deeds to these bad entities that wind up giving them money for their homes for such little amount of money, and then turning around and selling it for 3-4 times what they paid the homeowner, and then putting it on the market so that it's not affordable anymore for anybody in our communities. Next. exempt small property owners of less than 10 units suffering hardships related to COVID-19. Like I said, we have an exemption form finally because of COVID that homeowners can fill out, where it will exempt them from this year's tax lien sale. But like I said, it does not eliminate their debt, and it still accrues, I always forget, accrues penalties for having an outstanding debt with the Department of Finances. It reduces the number of other properties eligible for the lien sale by lifting the threshold of debt that makes an owner eligible for sale. We did that because it was, the threshold was $1,000. If you owed $1,000 in taxes, you were put on a lien sale. We've moved that threshold up to $5,000. You cannot be put on a tax lien unless you owe $5,000 or more. Next. Task force of city agency, council members, and community stakeholders to design alternative methods of addressing delinquent property taxes and city service fees, including myself from the East New York CLT. Being on that task force has not been an easy position for me. I've cried, I've begged to get off of it, because you're sitting in a room, and I'm a community person, really truly learning about this tax lien, but I'm sitting in a room full of ties and shirts and thank goodness for Paula, who has been assisting me through these meetings, that gets the word of the communities out to these Department of Finances, HPD, and other entities that are in that room, to let them know just how harmful this tax lien sale is. Next. That's me still? That's you?
I think it's me.
Yeah.
I think this is me. So as I said at the beginning, the administration is still planning a lien sale for next Friday. There's been lots of opposition from city council members and from Eric Adams saying they oppose the sale. Mostly the rhetoric is, don't do this during COVID. The Attorney General, she didn't make it onto our slide, but she has also come out and said, please don't do this, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor de Blasio, please tell Mr. Mayor de Blasio to cancel the December 17th tax lien sale. If you can, if you're a Twitter personality, please go to Twitter, do what you can. There has been a big push for cancellation, but it has not succeeded yet. If you represent any small property owner who did get a notice, who is included in the 2021 lien sale, please make sure they pay, or if they can't pay, then they have the opportunity to fill out the hardship forms. There are hardship forms for both residential owners and commercial owners. They're two separate forms. They're available on the Department of Finance website. We were guessing that folks at this training were mostly representing tenants, not owners. But if someone is representing homeowners or landlords who own apartment buildings, reach out. We'll send you the forms that they need to fill out, or a link to filling them out online. So that's the next week and a half. I can also share, I'm gonna put this in the chat. We have been mightily trying to make sure that charity property owners that are included in the sale know that they're included, and know that there are lots of ways to get out. If your church or your community organization is included on this list, please reach out to them, reach out to us. We will try to connect them with this new person at Department of Finance, whose job is really trying to protect community organizations from having liens sold that can lead to foreclosures. The spreadsheet has tabs for each borough. So if you're looking at that, pay attention to the tabs and find your borough. Elise, go ahead.
Great. So thinking beyond this tax lien sale, we know there's going to be a new mayor, there's a brand new city council, and we want to make them come out strong against this tax lien sale. The city council, Okay, this is a lot of clicking. So the city council is gonna either need to, they're gonna have to make a decision, right? Are they gonna let the system lapse? Are they gonna choose to reinstate this system that we think is completely unjust? Or are they gonna legislate a new and more equitable system like the one that we proposed, which would keep people in their homes and transfer more and more property out of the speculative market and into entities like community land trusts. And this could be something that, newly elected officials face when they take office. So we want to make sure that any new incoming council members or council members that are returning know that the tax lien sale is a terrible system and needs to be abolished. And yeah, I think that's it for our presentation. I'm gonna stop sharing, and I think we can move into any questions for the last few minutes.
I saw a question in the chat that maybe we can start by answering. Lisa asked if a small homeowner places their land in a community land trust, who's responsible for the repairs of the home? It's a great question. That question will be answered by the lease between the community land trust and the homeowner. So the specifics will be figured out in that specific negotiation. But generally, the homeowner will be responsible because they will continue to own the structure, they'll own the improvements, they'll have a deed to that, and that's their responsibility. But the lease will say things like, if the homeowner isn't maintaining the property or paying their taxes or doing other things that make sure that the property remains valuable to the community, the community land trust can step in. And it's definitely a community land trust is in a role as a kind of regulator in an instance like that. Thanks, Lisa.
Wow, that training, that workshop was absolutely enlightening. I think it's really interesting how, we at Housing Court Answers, of course, we help unrepresented litigants, whether they be homeowners, we give them information, whether they be homeowners or tenants. But, this example, this is an example of how really intertwined tenants and small homeowners' interests actually do go in line, because at the end of the day, both of these groups are at any moment can lose their home. They are living in precarious day-to-day situations, all at the expense of, private property and, people's homes being commodities. And it's really crazy how you'll see that these two groups often attack each other when at the end of the day, it's really, they have a common enemy, and it's private property. It's the politicians that allow these policies to go on, rampant. And so I thank you for giving us this information. I had no idea of how predatory this is and what small homeowners really do face. I guess the only other question that I would say is what do you guys see with participation for small homeowners? Like, are there a lot of small homeowners that are getting involved and, going against this and getting organized? And then I see another question. So if you want to go and answer that, and then we have another question from Wade. Anyone can go.
Or maybe Deborah. You've been out there doing the door knocking and talking with folks.
I could. Do you want me to answer her question or the question in the chat?
Oh, I think maybe let's answer Kayla's question first, right? Kayla,
Okay.
Can you repeat your
Kayla?
question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my question was, in your experience with this, organizing around this, are there a lot of small homeowners that are getting involved, that are getting organized, that understand what this is about? What is the success of reaching out to the small homeowners?
I've had great responses. The East New York CLT has had great responses from small homeowners. They were, first of all, amazed and shocked that such an organization was out there doing outreach and actually helping them. Now, we still have to get over that hump of the tax lien sale being made public to the speculators, because by the time we get to that homeowner, the speculators have already rang their bell, knocked on their doors, followed them around, talked to them about their homes. Oh, we know you on the tax lien sale. We can help you get off, just sell your house to us and we'll give you X amount of dollars. But in the past, no one has actually been reaching out to these homeowners and giving them resources. I've walked a person via over the phone who did their hardship declaration form over the phone, and I sat with them for an hour. I was on my phone, she was on her laptop, but she submitted it, and now she can call back the Department of Finance and set up a payment plan. But at least now she has some breathing room now that she knows that she's not on this tax lien sale come December the 17th. I have 3 people coming into the office tomorrow to submit the hardship declaration form if they're eligible once we go through the criteria with them. We have had, like I said, amazing response from the homeowners and the communities.
Thank you, Deborah. That answers it a lot. So
Thank
the
you.
next question we have here from Wade says, can you explain how community land trusts can help to prevent people from losing their homes, even if they are not behind on their mortgage payments or tax payments?
I think, so I can just put out there that one benefit of CLTs is that, again, it really takes land out of the speculative market and puts it in the hands of communities and makes sure that land remains affordable. And so if you're, a tenant, for example, I think there's a lot less fear, hopefully no fear, that your rent is going to be raised to a level that's going to evict you. In terms of like homeowners, I'm going to pass that to Paula, if that's okay to answer.
I'm sure. So I think Elise covered for tenants, the CLT would essentially act as a regulator for their landlord. For homeowners, it's an opportunity to partner with an organization that'll help them stay in their homes. So that could be that the CLT might be able to provide grants. It might be that they're able to step in if there's a foreclosure. If the CLT owns the land, they'll be entitled to notice if there's any kind of legal action against the owner of the improvements. The kind of more of the details, I don't want to speculate too much because again, it'll be worked out in the ground lease. Like maybe there would be something where a particular community land trust, gives everybody a stipend for repainting every 5 years. I don't know. That really depends on the resources of the CLT, but just sort of mechanically speaking, it means that there is another entity, that is legally entitled to knowing if you're in trouble and hopefully having staff that can offer to help when you're in trouble.
I just want to add a little bit to that. But the way I see CLTs helping homeowners once they put their home into a CLT is, like Paula said, you have someone there who's willing to help you before your bills, before your taxes, before your mortgage, whatever, before it gets out of control. And also we make sure that that home stays affordable for the next generational wealth. That in that ground lease, there's a limit that you can sell your home for. People who would put their homes in a CLT is like, okay, I don't want my children to lose this home. I worked hard for it. I've paid it off. I want my home to go to my children and my children's children. That happens within a CLT. You don't have to worry about speculators or anybody coming saying, oh, I see that you paid off your mortgage. Let's wanting you to sell your house. These CLTs are there to guide you, to assist you. And like we said, most of the people who are on tax liens are seniors who have paid off their mortgages, who have worked hard to pay off a 30-year mortgage. Now they got a tax bill in the mail
Thank you once again. I see we had another question by Lisa. Are any populations exempt from tax lien sales, i.e. individuals with disabilities, for example?
Yeah, I tried to answer that question in the chat and sent you a link to the Department of Finance page. So it's not exactly very few property owners are exempt from the lien sale without having some other kind of exemption from the Department of Finance. So if you have a senior citizen homeowners exemption, you're also exempt from the lien sale, even for other debt that you might owe. If you have like an emergency repair bill, they can't sell the lien on that because you have that property tax exemption. A notable difference is the law we got passed last year for charity property owners. For charity property owners that have not renewed in the last 2 years, they are still not allowed to sell the lien, even though the exemption is not current. As long as there has been a current exemption in either of the last 2 fiscal years, the liens are not allowed to be sold.
I just want to add to what Paula said. There are other exemptions out there that people just aren't aware of. There's the senior exemption. If you're a senior, you can get some sort of an exemption. It may lower your taxes. It won't eliminate it, but it may lower your taxes if you're a senior, if you're a vet. There are exemptions out there and people just aren't aware of it. That's where the CLT comes in, and we go out and we do the education. We do boots on the ground, knocking on the door. We do phone calls to educate our people about tax lien sales and their exemptions from these predatory actions.
Thank you. And the final question will ask, could you explain the role or ability of tenants to advocate for opting their building into a CLT? Do they have any power in their landlord making that decision?
Yeah, I can take that. I also saw like the question above. I'll just say really quickly about who manages the CLT. So again, the CLT is a group of people that come together and form a nonprofit entity in order to acquire land. And that group is generally community members who have a stake in the actual land as well as like the surrounding community. And their role is to ensure permanent affordability and community benefit. And then in terms of the role of tenants advocating or opting in, I mean, in order to, push your landlord to do anything, right, that takes organizing. And so, I think tenants there's not a clear-cut answer, I'll say, but, tenants are always able to organize and try to force their landlord to run their building in the way that they want or need as people living in that building. And that includes forcing, the landlord to sell their building to an entity that the tenants want, through organizing, or putting their building into a structure like a CLT. And so I think that, it's a similar organizing site so organizing, pushing your landlord to do the things that you want and run your building in the way that you want. And then I'll also just go back to what Debra mentioned with TOPA, right? So TOPA, Tenant Opportunity to Purchase, is a bill that we're hoping to win this year in Albany, which would say that if a landlord is selling a building, that the tenants should have first right of refusal in purchasing that building, and or deciding that a nonprofit entity like a CLT should run the building or take ownership. And so we're really hoping that that bill gets pushed and that it makes it easier to do what is being asked in the question, that more entities like in private housing can go into these decommodified ways of or structures of holding land and housing.
Hello, all right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again to our presenters who gave us so much information, so much more to, to understand about our communities and fight for and stand in solidarity with. So if anybody came late to the training, or if you just want to review it, again, I put the link in our website in the chat. You could go there. This training was live on YouTube, so you can also go to our YouTube if you would like to review it, as well as the presentation. It has been uploaded. The slides have been uploaded to our website. We also have an upcoming training this Tuesday. If you are on our mailing list, you should receive the MailChimp about it. We will be reviewing how to understand and read a rent history form, or rent histories, and rent increases such as MCIs and IAIs. This applies more to rent stabilized, rent controlled apartments. But once again, I want to thank our presenters for the amazing information that they provided us. A lot to settle and set with and think about. And again, building the struggle and stand in solidarity for all, all people that live in New York City. Thank you, everyone.